Thank you. First, Rachel, thank you. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. And to everybody that's joining either live or for folks that are watching afterwards, we really appreciate you. We hope that something that we say really resonates with you and gives you a little bit of inspiration to live fully into yourself. I want to give Rachel a moment to introduce herself, and then we're going to talk a little bit about why we're both wearing our hats backwards and some other really good stuff about how to be living fully present in who you are in every moment that you have. So, Rachel, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what you do? Go for it.
I love this. Thank you so much. So I always say your vibe attracts your tribe, and we are a part of this incredible mastermind. And just from day one, we felt each other. And then here we are, both wearing our hats backward on a Zoom one day. And so I'm Rachel Rose, and I am a keynote speaker and a TEDx speaker and a positive intelligence coach. And I love showing others what's possible. I survived a near fatal snowboard accident after I was told that I needed to kiss my youngest goodbye and find him a ride home in the ER. I woke up 3 days later and realized that it was really up to me to decide if this was the mountain I was going to die on. And I wasn't. And I decided no. And in an interview on a podcast, my neurologist was asked, of all the people that sustain this injury, 86% die, commit suicide, or end up in an assisted living. What is it that was different here with Rachel? And he said 100% mindset. And I feel that's part of what brought us together, is that we get to decide. And so here we are today to hopefully inspire you to fix the mindset if it's not there, or realize the power of our mindset.
Whew, yeah, I love it. And and I'm going to kind of dive back into what we were talking about, because we even said like we should carry this conversation in. And when you talk about positive intelligence, which in a minute, I want you to talk a little bit more about what that term means to you. But I think like, let's go right into what we were talking about prior to when we went live. So Rachel and I have discovered that there are some things that we both share. One is just a love of baseball hats in general, and the fact that we will put them on forward to go outside. And then we're like, oh, I want to be able to see better. So we'll put them backwards. So just, there's a lot of different pieces to the message with the wearing the baseball hat backwards and when you can and can't, which is always, but we'll talk about that. And one of the other things that we share in common is appreciation for things being in order. That doesn't mean that they can't ever be chaotic. So, you can be playing and doing a bunch of things and things are all over the place and it's, messy, but then we like things to kind of go back to where they belong or where they were so that we can find them down the road. It's not not necessarily a compulsion that we have to have things clean, but we like things to be in the rightful place. And I was saying that right now I've got so many different things going on, both personally and professionally, that I've had to accept that things are not going to be the way that I want them to be. Like I shared, I have some, clean clothes folded in a laundry basket that have been sitting in my room. And in the past, that just wouldn't have happened. I'd have stayed up and I'd have gotten those clothes put away because they needed to be, but you have to start prioritizing. And so it's helped really challenge me in my perception of what I need to do and don't need to do, and how if I'm going to walk into a space and it's not going to have the sense of peace and order that I want it to have as a space, then I'm going to bring that peace and order to it in the way that I carry myself. And that really connects beautifully with what you were talking about, which is that positive intelligence, right? We're not going to be able to affect some of those changes. Like you couldn't undo that you had been in that accident, but you could control how you were going to give the best of yourself to the situation forward. And so all of us, whether it's a messy room, a health crisis, a relationship crisis, a job crisis, many different possible things that could be creating a blocker for people, how are we going to approach those and bring with it the best of ourselves and see the best in the situation in that moment? So I want to let you respond in however you see fit. So if you want to now talk about the positive intelligence concept, you can, or you might just want to bounce off of that.
Well, it's a little bit of both. I think that, since that time and going forward, and definitely exactly what you're speaking about, is that because I feel like trauma to everyone is something different. It doesn't have to be a near death experience. It could be a conversation, it could be a situation, it could be your home being all crazy and out of order. For some people,
Right.
that could be traumatic. But I think what is amazing, and this is from Positive Intelligence, but also is what can get any of us through any situation, is I always like to compare it to the book Going on a Bear Hunt. Did you ever read that book to your
Yes,
kids?
love that bear hunt.
Right?
Yep. And I use this
So
as an analogy often too.
I love this because it's so true. It's you can't go over it. So for those of you that haven't read the book, you don't need a kid to get the message. Is about they want to catch a bear, and at every place they come upon an obstacle, and they realize they can't go over it, they can't go under it, they can't go around it. They have to go through it, right? And with positive intelligence and just accessing the right side of the brain, which is where you see the positive, and it's based in the fact that every situation and circumstance will always offer you three gifts. And just in general, will always offer you gifts and opportunities, no matter what, no matter how badly whatever it is that you're going through, there will always be gifts and opportunities on the other side, but only if you go through it. Not numb the
Mm.
pain, not, we have a million different opportunities to deny it and ignore it and numb it, whether it's social media or it's food or it's alcohol or it's whatever it is, Netflix binges. There's so many opportunities, but when we go through it, that's when we get the gifts. And when you were talking about things happening that we can't control and that we wish didn't happen, and that is the beauty too, that I feel a lot of us sometimes we don't realize, is that when you're grateful for your life, you may pick and choose. I wish this happened. I wish this didn't happen. But we need, in order to have the part that we're grateful and the gifts and the opportunities, we have to go through the bad stuff. And so because if we sacrifice the bad stuff or the traumas or the obstacles, we also sacrifice the gifts. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we both have
Oh,
come
you can keep
through.
going. I don't know if you're done. You can keep going. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna just follow with the three gifts that everything gives us is the gift of knowledge. So whatever we're going through right now, it's there to give us information. It's there for us to learn from. And it gives us, and if we can think about it as, what is this teaching me now that in the future I will be able to take the knowledge, the wisdom, the experience, right? So that it will cost me that much less in whatever it is in the future. The second gift is the gift of power. So while you're sitting there in this mess or whatever it is that you're facing or that you don't like, is to think of it as almost like a weight at the gym, and that this is getting you stronger going through it, and every step of the way, no matter whether it's rehab or changing your mindset, whatever it is, you're getting stronger. And then the third, which is my favorite, and again, it's only on the other side, so you have to trust and know it's there, but it's the gift of inspired action. It's the gift where you now are going to approach a situation or the next thing, right? Because there's always going to be something, and do something that you would have never thought you could do, or that you would have never believed could work for you had you not had the prior experience. So It's
Wow.
easier to get through stuff when you just know. I don't know why this is happening right now. I could use it's happening to me right
Right.
now. But I'm excited to get through to the other side because I just know something amazing has to come out of it. That's why the snowboard is here. Now you don't realize the gifts while you're going through such terrible situation. It's in hindsight, but knowing they're there, it's a lot easier to get to the other side. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, and I think so there's so many things to unpack with what you were talking about, right? The different gifts that you're talking about and the ways that we can approach those. And I think understanding too that we have to kind of not separate our emotion and our thought process because they're going to be intertwined. But we do have to recognize that when our emotion comes into play, because it's going to, when you're in a difficult situation, your body's response is fight or flight. How do I figure this out? What am I going to do to fix this? Because it doesn't feel good or it's not safe. And emotions come with that. So, in those situations, what we have to really be cognizant of is being very intentional in the choice, which is what you're talking about. It's recognizing, like, okay, this is really hard right now. I don't feel good about the situation right now. So, I'm going to have to figure out the way that I'm going to make the best of this situation. And I think sometimes what happens is when people, get some type of training along this lines, because there's various different mindset trainings, then they encounter a difficult situation and the sadness or the anger or the confusion takes over. They feel like, oh, I'm not doing it, right? I thought I had come so far. And really, the emotion's not the problem. So it's okay. Feel that emotion, acknowledge that emotion. You're allowed to be upset, angry, hurt, etc. You then need to tell yourself, okay, I've got this feeling. And to your point, really think about what are the ways that I can use this, or what are the ways that I can think about the resources that I have available to me at this time to get through it, right? In that moment when you were being told, this is it, be prepared. The end is coming. If it's not imminent, it's going to be very soon. You had to choose, I'm going to continue to fight. I'm not going to give up on that, right? Fight in a positive sense, in the forward motion, right? Which connects with the hats, right? Like sometimes things can look really backward. Like this isn't going to be a good thing. There's nothing I can make out of this. But ultimately on the other side of it, there will be, but only if you choose in that moment that you're going to learn through the pain, through the sadness, through all those emotions that we tend to call negative, but are really just a natural part of being,
No, and
right?
you bring up a very key important part is that you have to begin in the place of acknowledgement when it's happening, right? Have the pity party, be the victim, blame, justify, excuse. God forbid if there was a natural disaster. They don't go in and start rebuilding cities before they assess what's happened and
Right.
what was the impact, right? And you have to go through that part first. You have to. But the goal is to not stay there. The goal is to then decide what your outcome is going to be, and in that bad place it's hard sometimes, but if you can not only know the gifts and opportunities lie on the other side, but literally ask yourself. I had this amazing mentor, Melissa, through Tony Robbins 20 years ago, and no matter how bad something was perceived, when we would meet she would say, what's good about this?
Mm.
What's good about this? And it's like a rewire. It's like Dr. Alok, the brain, it's neuroscience.
Yeah.
It really is, to say what is good about this. So I'll give you a great example. I'm living in an unsafe environment right now. With not my life isn't being well in
The physical
and
space.
in the physical space. And I could be freaking out, but then I can flip and say, "Oh, I'm so excited to get out of this unhealthy space and get healthy. What is my new place going to look like? And where is it going to be?" And just something as little as thinking about that, accessing, I wonder what this is teaching me, and where will I be on the other side, and how will my life be different? Just even the consideration changes your whole
Yeah,
perspective.
mindset. Yeah, your perspective. You're absolutely right. Yeah, and we're all designed. This so from my perspective, right? So my one of the things I think is we're really all designed to be connected. We all have gifts that can benefit each other, right? Like it's you think of it like members of a team, right? So
Yeah.
globally, we all have this significant part that we play that is not duplicated by anybody else. You can't be replaced. There's nobody oh, that person's very much like you. That's fine. Everybody's got this unique purpose. And as part
Mhm.
of that, sometimes, and this can be hard, but sometimes part of what we're going through, the biggest win of it might be what we're going to be able to do for somebody else, right? It might be our
Mhm.
experience and the positive words that we can use and give to somebody else because we've been in that negative circumstance and have a very, relatable situation that we can share about. So that can be hard because I think we want to, by nature, kind of see like where is the immediate or relatively immediate, feedback that's going to be positive for me. Where is the help? Sometimes it's about how we're going to help other people in the same way that other people are
Yes.
going to help us. Like you're mentioning mentors and people that are in your life and they were influenced by those experiences that they went through. You're influenced by what you went through. So you're able to pour goodness into other people's lives. And it's just like, I think it's such a beautiful quilt of all of these different pieces of things and how they come together. And if we sit back and appreciate the beauty of our ability to help others, like to me, that's such a magnificent and just incredible thing when you can kind of see like that person's life is going to be more beneficial or more positive, or they're going to be able to be more fully present in it because of something that I said, because of something that I experienced, or because of somebody that I interacted with. Right. So it's stepping back and looking at the big picture that it might not be that you're going to now be able to accomplish the goal that you had, but it might just be about part of you being living beautifully into your purpose on this earth.
100. I mean, that is exactly, I know for both of us. That's what gets me out of bed every day. I literally, if one person reaches out, because, right, we all have days where we're like, oh, but if one person reaches out and says, thank you, or you helped me, or I had a traumatic brain injury, or whatever it is that we're going through, one person, I literally print that out. I have them all over the place so that I know that it's not just about my kids, because that's what it always was, is showing them what's possible. But if I can go out there on a day that I'm not, feeling like I need to do something, or I'm tired, or I'm sick, or I'm swollen, or whatever the hell it is, and know that if one person, because I know what people have done for me, I know that I have been in a bad place, and one person showing up, I don't know if they wanted to that day or not, but and you hear stories of people that
Right.
terrible, that they were going to take their life, or that they were going to give up, and that is, to what you're saying, it is my sole purpose every day, is to wake up and be who I am in that moment, try to be, no matter what, no more, everything has to be perfect, because there's one person out there, I've got to believe, and that is it's not
Yeah.
about us, right? It's about, we survived what we survived for a reason, and I believe we're here to pay that forward and show others what's possible. So whatever's happening, I'm like, I got to get to the other side, right? Not just for the gifts and
Yeah.
possibilities, but who else could benefit from knowing that? Can I share one thing? I don't want to talk too much because we're
No,
so
go
in
for it.
flow right now. But
Go for
you
it.
know the
Go.
story of Roger Bannister? This is like one of my
Yes,
favorite.
I love this story. Oh, I was a runner, so tell it, Rachel. I love this story. I
Same.
share it all the time. Yep.
I love it. So for those of you that don't know him, up until the 50s or whenever he ran a 4-minute mile in the Olympics. And I think the Olympics have literally been around since the 1800s. And
yes. Earlier.
right? Yeah. Crazy. And nobody had ever run a 4-minute mile until Roger Bannister did. And I don't know if it was months or weeks or days, but thousands have run a 4-minute mile since he did. And he didn't have anything that anyone else didn't have, resource-wise or anything. But what he did was he showed others what's possible, right? And that's why we're here today, everybody. Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I love the Roger Bannister story. And there's a lot to that story too, about the conditions weren't ideal that day and conversations that had happened and different things. But yeah, it has to do with that. Now, the thing I do like to note whenever talking about this, though, just for the sake of, because I think sometimes we can almost beat ourselves up with positive expressions, because sometimes we live into that like notion of like, I can do anything I set my mind to. And I think you can do incredible things if you set your mind to it. But I don't necessarily love that you can do anything, because I think then sometimes people feel like if they're not able to accomplish something that they want, that there's a fault in them or that there's something they're not doing, right? If I said to you right now, like this is a thing I use with my kids all the time. If I said to you right now, I am going to stop working and I am going to become an Olympic skier and go to the Olympics for skiing next Olympics. That's not going to happen for a whole host of reasons, right? And so, but we don't need to then, because Deb thinks that she's going to do that, support her and be like, yeah, you can do that, Deb, go for it, go for that, right? Because there are other incredible things I can do. So it's about acknowledging the gifts that you have. And so that concept of like Roger Bannister, the people that could beat the 4-minute mile, beat the 4-minute mile, but not everybody who existed in the world was able to go out and run a sub 4-minute mile, right? So it's finding your area of excellence and really embracing the limitless potential there and not somebody else's limitless potential, right? So I like, it's understanding that seeing people accomplish amazing things is a reflection of how we can all accomplish amazing things. And amazing things don't always look like world records. They look like the person that got a positive word from you that didn't take their life. They look like the child that was feeling really frustrated and didn't have any friends finding a friend, right? Those amazing things, sometimes we don't even know, right? Like I think one of the things that's so cool about these Go Lives is I feel like no matter what, I'm 100% confident that for every one of these, there's somebody watching either live or after the fact that hears something that either I said or the guest said that is going to be impactful to them in a way that's going to help them accomplish something. It doesn't matter what it is, right? And that's the things we'll never know. We don't know that we'll ever find out how many people that were impacted by us. So now you roll that out over the course of your life. Every time you do an act of kindness, every time you help somebody, every time you share your gifts showing other people that they can, you're helping people in ways that you'll never even know about, right? Those seeds are being planted. Flowers are blooming all over the world that you'll never see, but somebody else will, right?
I have goosebumps. I love it. You know, and Prince said, this is like literally one of my other favorite quotes. Sometimes it takes a whole life, your whole life, to become an overnight success. And we have so much within us. Not one of us has competition, not one person, because nobody is like us. And I love what you said about finding your gifts. And that is your, I forget what they call it. That is your superpower, right? Just your gifts. Nobody else has the gifts that you have with the same energy and with the same anything, whatever it is. So I love that. And I do believe, to what you're saying also, that, you know, positivity is not, it's not acknowledging, it's not being unrealistic, it's not lying to ourselves. But I just think the power of our perspective to look for something positive
Right.
even, with not in real life, not just, you see these people that are happy all the time. And I used to be that person, and I would hide when everything wasn't great and amazing. And I still sometimes withdraw, but it's still about the more we are vulnerable and we show and express what we're going through and still look for that positive perspective, it's still real. It's not
Yeah.
saying this isn't happening. It's just saying what's going to be, it's more
Right.
contemplation and discernment instead of like, being the victim or, after the acknowledgement.
Right. No, I did an article with Authority Magazine, I don't remember, sometime last year, and one of the questions asked was a definition of optimism, and I said I think it's gratitude forward, right? It's not, to your point, it's
Love
not
that.
disregarding the negative circumstances. It's not pretending that everything is perfect. It's, you acknowledge that, but ultimately it's knowing that the big okay is okay. And so I'm going to live with gratitude into what's going to come, that again, I may not know soon, I may not ever know fully, but it's there. And that's one of the prayers every morning, one of the things I always ask God for is that I live with full awareness of the gifts that I've been given and that I do them justice. Whatever it is, right? And some of them maybe I don't even know, but that I'm living that purpose as fully as possible. And I think that, what you and I having this conversation, you and I talking to people about that's a 4-minute mile, right? Like we're running a
Totally.
4-minute mile right now.
Yes. And there's something that somebody shared that really, to what you're saying about our own gifts and God or the universe, whoever you believe in that, I want everybody to imagine that you're at the end of your life and whoever you believe, your creator, says to you, oh, I'm so excited. I cannot wait for you to meet the person that I gave you the limitless gifts and wisdom. I can't wait for you to meet the person that I created you to be. And you meet the person and you don't recognize them. So this is about finding, to what you were saying earlier, we all have gifts and we have to be, I think, cognizant and almost responsible for not wasting them.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they were given to us for a reason. And the last thing I want to do is be at the end of my life and know that I had so much more potential to make a difference or to impact, and I threw them away, or I
Right.
wasted them. So
Yeah, we want to shine and help other people shine, right? That's the essence of love, is when you're sharing your gifts and you're helping other people share their gifts, right? It's loving our fullness with each other as human beings. And
yes,
we have that opportunity in so many ways. And as much as I think that social media and the internet and all of our access to constant information can be problematic at times and can lead to some
yes,
difficult experiences, it also gives us the opportunity to connect with people all over the world. And for those people that maybe aren't comfortable with leaving their houses, or those people who aren't good at socializing and making connections, there's a way that we can connect. And so if we're very intentional about that and aware, right, that our online visibility and opportunity is something that we can use to spread messages to people who might not otherwise hear it, then we can see the potential in it. And we do have to be mindful of that, right? There's a lot that happens. I'm sure that you've struggled with it, right? You're like, oh, do I post this win? Do I not post this win? I don't want to seem like I'm bragging, but at the same time, I want people to be inspired. There's a lot that goes on. And then there's also people who are like, oh, I'm going to look silly if I post this, or am I going to look like I'm not enough, right? So we are all struggling with some type of ways that we are concerned about how we're going to be interpreted. And I think we both have experienced both those extremes, right? I've got a win, or I feel embarrassed. And so how can we be present, whether it's online or in person, with both the very high parts of our feeling and the very low parts of our feeling, so that we can all see like, okay, I connect, I get this. Like we have those overlapping things. Like I love memoirs. I don't know if you're a memoir person, but I love reading
Love.
memoirs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, different people have different reasons for reading them. But one of the things I think is really cool is every memoir I have ever read, every single one, I have found something that I could relate to. So people with very different backgrounds and different stories to people that might have more in common with me, but in every single memoir, there's a sentence, an emotion, an experience that I can relate to. Why? Because we're all human beings living on this planet right now as incredible miracles, and we have some shared human nature. And when we connect in that, we can do incredible things that we might not have otherwise thought we were capable of doing.
Oh, I love it. And it's so true. It's a lot of times when we are going through the bad things, and it's easier for me to tell a story to give an example. But so last year in March, I got very, very, very sick. And my youngest that I had moved across the country with went back to Chicago. And I was all alone and I was sick. And I haven't been alone in, be careful what you wish for. I hadn't been alone in 25 years, right? When you have kids and you have family and you never are alone. And I all of a sudden thought about all of the people that were alone during the shelter in place during the pandemic, and how hard that must have been for them. I never thought about it because I never experienced it. But all of a sudden, I had this compassion and connection and empathy and so many things, and feeling for people that don't have family, that don't, when you're in it, they say the days are long and the years are short, right? When you're bringing up your kids, but it's on the other side of it. You're whatever you're going through is someone else's wish sometimes. And I think when we are going through all of the things that make us imperfect or that seem awful, that is also what you're saying. It creates connection. It creates this unbelievable connection with other people to understand what they actually have lived through or are going through because you've been there or you've had a taste of it.
Right. Absolutely.
So to what you're saying about sometimes you share and you have to know that it's really none of our business what other people think of us. And if one other person says, "Oh, me too," there's such an incredible feeling, I feel like, to know that I'm not the only one. She's feeling this too, or she's been there too, or he's made it to the other side. Maybe I can.
Yeah, we start to and I got emotional with you saying that, thinking about we start to chop down on the otherness, right? The otherness that we develop really when we're young children. Even to some degree, we start to find the people that we associate with, and so there's the people we associate with, and then there's the other people. And it's not that we're thinking less of them; it's just that we start to create those boundaries. And to some degree, you do want to have know the people you want to spend time with for your goals and your attentions, and that you're going to be emotionally healthy, right? So it's fine to say that's not a person that's going to be necessarily in my best interest to spend time with. But in terms of human recognition, right? When we think that better than or less than, because we don't really want either of those. We want to look at the world with every single person. There's no exception to that. I don't care what a person has done or hasn't done. Every single person has the same amount of amazingness, miraculousness, right? Like the same degree. And then there's different reasons that people make different choices that they make. But when we recognize that, it allows us to kind of level out a lot of that self-doubt that we feel, because we realize like,
Yes.
okay, I'm just going to live forward into this. And, I do worry sometimes, like, am I doing the right? Am I making the right choices that are going to make the best use of my gifts? Right. And so the antidote for that is I have to keep reminding myself, you're doing the best yourselves. Like, I'm multiple people. I have to keep reminding myself that, that I am doing the best that I can with the information that I have and the circumstances that I'm in.
Yes.
And as long as I keep leaning into that desire, right? And I think it's really hard. It doesn't ever just become habit, but it's really worth it.
100%. I love it. I love everything you're sharing.
Yeah, so let's talk about the hats for a minute, because I think that there's a bigger thing to that, right? And I think it's interesting because we have, despite the fact that we're on opposite sides of the country and we have different backgrounds and different life stories and different business models, but like, we intersect on some of these key points. And, to you, what you were saying, like what's the phrase you use? Your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Yeah.
So you end up in, right, there was a cross section. So for us, it was, the mastermind, right? You end up in these cross sections where you connect with people that had you not made that one decision, you wouldn't connect with, because all of your other paths are very separate from each other. And, so it seems silly, but, we connect on these hats, right? So I was sharing like, oh my gosh, I could have an entire room dedicated to hats. And that's after having over the years gotten rid of some hats, because I'm like, all right, I really can't keep these all but there's something, there's like a security blanket to it. Like I shared and you were nodding. Like sometimes I just want a hat on my head. It makes me feel comfort. It's not even about whether it's going to get the sun out of my eyes. It's just, I want the hat on my head. Right. And, turning your hat backwards. So, you're not taking the hat off. And I think that maybe traditionally there might have been some connotation of like, right, I don't want to say hoodlums, but I feel like in a movie, in an old movie, right, they'd be like wearing their hat backwards, right? So like there was some connotation of that, not across the board. But I think, you and I wear our hats. We wear our hats sometimes when we're on the dressier side, even. We wear our hats backwards. We live into that, and that's very symbolic of the having messiness around us, right? There's messiness around us, but we're still going forward, right? Like the hat's still on my head, whether it's my hair's tucked in neat. And, you said the really cool phrase. You said, well, like a bad hair day becomes a good hat day. And that, there it is. It's just a beautiful symbol for life, right?
Totally. And it's just perspective. I mean, the hair doesn't look good today, but it's a great day for a hat, so it's acknowledging the bad or the negative, but it's finding, the gift.
Well, it's interesting too. So I used to define myself as, I say this almost embarrassingly, not that I'm embarrassed about the hair part, but that I'm embarrassed that I was critical. I would say that I was like hairstyle illiterate. I'd be like, oh, I don't know how to do hair. I think probably part of it had to do with I didn't really want to do a lot with my hair, and then I didn't learn it. And so like I can kind of French braid my daughter's hair if I really pay attention to what I'm doing, but like it's not something that comes naturally to me. And so I do think that part of it, like I just like the way, I like how hats look. I like, in general. So those are pieces of it as well. But I think it was also for me like, okay, well, if I'm insecure about my hair. So in some regards, I don't want to say every day was a bad hair day, but I had a hair insecurity that I didn't have the natural ability to do these things. So you've got the hats. But now when I feel less about that, less hair insecurity, more like, okay, well, my hair is going to look how my hair is going to look. I still have days where I don't like it. And, but I'm wearing the hat for a different reason. It's a like, I'm going to put my hat on. I'm going to put my hat on backwards. And I think now it becomes more of like a relaxed, like you got your hat on backwards. You're very chill. And I think that's what you and I are really trying to help ourselves through, is that the sense of order that we used to want to have over things, control, not necessarily bad or good, but there were probably times where we dabbled in the, like, you need to let go a little bit. This isn't yours to fix. And so now we're like, hey, like, so I love when you were like, we were talking about the backwards hats, like, okay, let's do the backwards hats. I'm like, let's do the backwards hat. It just was helpful to us both that, I'll even take it off for a second and show, like, that's
Yeah.
It is flatter than flat right now, but that's good. I don't think you ever have a bad hair day. So,
Oh, listen, it's we all have that inner. This is the positive intelligence. We all have a judge, right?
yeah,
And then we all have, the judge doesn't work independent. The judge has like a whole board of directors, I like to call them, and but definitely it's creates so much healthier mental health, I feel like, to just not care so much and not beat ourselves up. I mean,
yeah,
we're relentless. All of us, everybody, everyone has a judge. It depends, how big your board of directors is, and it definitely it's constant in our head. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you did that. Why didn't you do this? I can't believe you went out like that. You can't do this. It's all day, every day for all of us to different degrees, and
right.
it can take us down and wear us down. So yeah, I think just to be able to really not care about a lot of things that we would have cared about in the past. And I don't know if that's
Right.
age or wisdom or what that is, but I
Yeah.
love it. It feels good to just, be okay with it.
Well, I do part of it is also there's definitely a cultural movement towards mental health awareness and well-being, right? Like that's more it's definitely more pronounced. I mean, I think there was always to some degree some people that were aware, but it's becoming more pronounced. It's also up against and competing with you're seeing everybody else's successes all the time. So there's competing,
That,
we're headed in that direction, but we're also headed in there's more awareness of mental health. Companies are having people come in and help them with the mindset and the well-being of the company because they recognize that not only is that just nice and the right thing to do, but it's also beneficial. It helps people be more productive. So I think that that's helping. I think that that's helping, but also I'm sure that age does have a part to it to some degree. Although I notice like even what I was going through as a teenager and some of the ways that I tried to explain things and now watching my daughter. And even though I know that like it's still really hard to be a teenager, that's never, I mean, you've got a million people telling you what to do and your body is just going through all these changes. It's just there's a lot to sort through. And it can be better, right? You can work through it. But when I hear the way that she says things and explains things, then I realize that like a lot of the things that I went through, she's not necessarily going to go through the same like nobody understands this and it doesn't have a name because now like we'll say things like, okay, are you struggling with some mental health issues? Whereas when I was a kid, people just used to say, oh, you're super sensitive. You're such a sensitive kid.
yes,
But it was so much bigger than that, and I'm not
yes,
necessarily angry at anybody because I think there wasn't awareness. But so that's part of it too, that, we can come on here and we can talk about the things that we're talking about and that there were going to be people who are going to be cheering that on. It's not going to be like this outlier crazy conversation, but that
yeah.
people are going to be going like, yeah, Rachel and Deb, I get that. I get that.
Well, I love what you just led into the whole reason that this was the hat of choice today. So this is Mad Happy. And if you don't know the company, that's the name of the company. And it's a friend of ours that started the company, Mad Happy. It's all backwards here. And basically, it's all about mental health. And so what you're saying is so true. And back not even that long ago, maybe pre-pandemic, people, there were people that, they have mental health issues or they have depression or they have anxiety but what we're realizing now is that everybody is going to have a point in their life when they're going through a mental health crisis, anxiety, depression. I mean, everybody, maybe it's a day, but everyone is going to have some sort of mental health, something. And so that is what this brand is all about, is creating an awareness for mental health, and that it's not an individual thing. It's like you're saying, it's a global thing. It's a human thing. We can't all be happy all the time, right? Mad happy. Where is it? Wherever it is.
Right,
and
right.
I love that. And when you're talking about how the companies are bringing it in, and I think at that, and raising awareness, and I think that is also to what how we began, is about, being more vulnerable and sharing what we're going through and creating connection, and letting people know you're not the only one. And it's a hard,
Right.
it's I can't even imagine what it's like to be a teenager, but it's hard to be an adult. And with compare it, I
Yeah.
think what that other quote that I love is, the comparison is the thief of joy, and social media is its accomplice. I mean, our friend Jen jokes around that you go on social media to see your friend's wedding or their new dog, and an hour and a half later, you feel like you need to redo your website, redecorate your house, you need to get Botox, you need to like dye your hair, and it can be so traumatic. That's traumatic, is the comparison stuff. But the mental health it does begin with, research is showing now. It used to be that if you achieved, your achievement gave you happiness. And what the neuroscience research shows now across the board, whether you're cognitive or whatever positive, it happiness first is finding happiness in your mental health. And because that is going to be your straightest and most direct way for the best relationship,
Mm.
for achievement, for performance, in personally and professionally, is to begin with happiness. How many of us know people, or maybe ourselves included, we're so addicted to achievement, 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 achievement. And how many people do you know that are super successful and have everything that we think, or that people thought in the past made you happy, and they're alone, or they're not happy? They're
Right.
happiness first. So I don't
Yeah.
even know. It started with Mad Happy. I went off on a tangent, but
No, I love it. It was a good tangent. It was applicable to all we're talking about. Look, I mean, I think people should be doing, I think, mental health checkups should be the same as our annual physical and our dental checkups and everything else. I mean, I think that why we make it a you only go if something's wrong when it's such an integral part of all of those other factors, because we know that if you're struggling mentally, you are going to be more likely to get sick and more likely to have other types of complications. So it's critical, and I think that the more we talk about it, and the more people feel comfortable saying it, and there's always going to be, like with anything, there's going to be some people who are judgmental. I think that it's about finding what treatment method is the best for you, and not necessarily feeling like if you see a video online and somebody's talking about how it really, really helped them, that you then, oh, that's it, it's going to solve it for me, and then you do it and it doesn't work for you, and you're like, oh, I'm broken, I can't be fixed. Like, there are different ways. Some, like, for example, some people are going to use medication, some people aren't, right? Different types of therapy. Some people are going to want to get out and get really physically active with doing like hardcore cardio, and some people are like, I'll take a daily walk. So it is important to find your way. And I think, just as kind of a side note, but in addition to all we're saying, one thing I would just encourage everybody too is, as you're out there, particularly in the internet, and you're researching these different methods and you're doing all these things, take the time to make sure you're working with somebody who's really talking to you and understanding who you are and where you are, and not giving you a blanket solution for whatever your health questions are, mental, physical, etc., without understanding who you are and where you are in your individual being. And yeah, I mean, I think that that's just, it's something that matters a lot to me for various reasons. Not only because I've
mhm,
been through it myself, but having watched other people go through stuff. You really want to make sure that you're taking the time to find the path that's right for you, and don't feel like the first attempt that you make, if it doesn't yield the results you want right away, that means you can't be, quote unquote, fixed. I don't think anything needs to be fixed, but that you can't feel better. That it might
mhm,
just mean you got to find the path that's right for you. And the more you believe into that, and surround yourself with people who will have those positive conversations, people who make you laugh, right? Like that's one of the
Yeah,
things I think we like that we make each other laugh. I think that's part of how we initially connected. We want people to feel good. We want to feel good. We want to be able to smile. We want to be able to, have 100 hats and know that that's silly, but have them anyway. We want to just be
totally.
fully present, right? Fully present.
Yes. And it's again, it may or may not work for everyone, but that has actually helped me huge lately is to when I start thinking, where am I going to go? I don't have a home. I don't but and then I say, okay, Rachel, stay present. And I'm like, look at this amazing, beautiful place that I am in today. And just really saying, come to the present moment, right? Not beating ourselves up for the past and not worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. And there's so much I never realized. Like people say, stay be in the moment, but it I really I think so many of us, and myself included in the past, they say that if the message isn't learned or the lesson isn't learned, it's going to come back louder. And for me, if I had 30 minutes free in my calendar, I would feel like I got to be doing something. I have to book another person. I have to go help someone. I have to volunteer. I have to do something, right? I can't waste any time. And for me, that was one of the messages from the snowboard accident was to stop, right? Because once I had that accident, when it first happened, there was nothing I could do. All the things I said, I wish I had 5 minutes to listen to music or read another book or watch a movie, or because I was always so busy. And all of a sudden, I had all this time and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go online. I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't. And I ended up cutting out pictures and making these collages. And it forced me to be in the moment. And now it's turned into this gift where it's enough. Whatever we're doing, it's enough. And to be in that moment and realize that even just looking through pictures or going on your phone and looking through, sometimes Google, if you have Google, it like reminds you of magic moments or memories. It'll pop up in the morning and you look back and you can remember being in that place with this person, and you haven't seen the person in 10 years, or maybe they're not around anymore, or what I would give to be back in that craziness of, standing in the carpool line or whatever it is, in that job or with these people, and realize it, everything is going
Yeah.
by, and to be in that moment and just savor it, squeeze that juice, get the last drop and go to bed at the end of the day and just have the most amazing day, even if you're going to the dentist and the grocery store and the cleaners and just wherever you are, being in that moment and making the most, and maybe extending yourself to the cashier a little more than you might have if you were just like, I gotta go, I have an appointment, oh, this lady's writing a check, I'm gonna be here forever, instead of just like being there with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. And especially like what you said with the cashier, because I think like there, that's opportunities for us to really live impact in every second. Right. And so if we're alone with ourselves, we should give ourselves that kindness, right? Kindness is not just about how we treat other people. It's about how we treat ourselves and the beautiful being that we are and what we've been given. So, um, absolutely. And it's 54 minutes. Can you believe that's how long we've been live? I just looked up at the thing and I'm like, no, that can't be right. So I want to make sure you've got a book and an event. I want to give you a chance to talk about those things. And I would like you to give everybody availability. Where's the best way to contact you? If you have a preferred method, how they can find you on social media, etc.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited. It's been 3 years, I think, in the making of this book, and that I have a lot of lessons that I learned going through that. But I'm very excited, and it's at the publisher, and it's Radical Resilience and the Price of Perfection. And it's lessons and blessings, but it's about how to apply it to your own life. So it's interactive. So I'm very excited and grateful, and thank you for that. And it will be Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It will be everywhere. And we have a Price of Perfection, a Radical Resilience and the Price of Perfection event on Thursday. And everything is on the website, rachelroselive.com. And you can grab a gift. If you see, grab your blueprint, and that's reclaiming your power, your positivity, and possibility. You can book a call. You can book a speaking. You can join us on Thursday. It's amazing. And it always takes on the amazingness of the community of whoever shows up. It's always different. And this was amazing. And I'm so grateful for you in my life and on this journey, and for everybody that shared with us today. It's a blessing. It's what keeps me going every day, is just making.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And I'm so glad. Oh,
No, you're good. You're good. It's elevating, right?
no, you were freezing up on me, so I cut you up.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm done. I'm grateful. And this was so elevating for me. So just being around you. And so hopefully someone else is elevated because of us.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. There's no doubt. Social media, though, you didn't give your social media stuff, though, right? You talked about your book and your event, but where would be the best way for people to follow you?
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. There's a couple groups if you're interested in trying to kill the perfectionist inside of you. There's a Price of Perfection, but it's
okay.
Everything on definitely at rachelroselive.com.
Okay, excellent. And then the last thing here before we hop off, one last message that you'd like to give to whomever has joined us live or will be watching this after the fact.
My favorite, I know I have so many quotes and stories that I live by, but is, if you're still searching for that one person to change your life, take a look in the mirror.
Ooh, yeah. Beautiful.
That's what I love. What about you? What's your favorite?
Oh gosh, my favorite quote. Oh,
that you could live, or at least leave everyone with.
I mean, I like to tell everybody to live true, and there's a lot of context to that, but live true to who you are, live true to the gifts you've been given, live true to the ability to love fully. So I like live true because I think it's you can just kind of remind yourself if you catch yourself wandering off course or thinking you're not enough or you're less or more than, just live true.
I love that. And that's so much of what you shared today.
Thank you. You as well. So I am grateful to you. I'm glad that we talked for as long as we do. And I always feel like, you know what? It's less important to me whether people watch the entire things or tune into the part that's intended for them. It's the conversations for other people's sake, but I also think it's every time I have these conversations, the person I'm talking to, we're feeding into each other. And that's just good, right? There's so much winning when we give each other love. Exactly.
Live true. Love true and live true.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. You can hang on for a second. You don't have to hop off. I love it. Yeah. It's a great way to end. Giving everybody kisses. And listen, everybody, go out there. If you don't have a baseball hat and you can afford it, buy one. Put it on backwards. Go out there and greet the world as your full and true self.
I love it.
Goodbye, everybody.
I love it. Mwah.